In the summer of 2015, a small gray stone sat inside a plastic bag on a shelf for almost a year. It was found inside a Bronze Age grave near Pylos in Greece, and at first, no one paid it much attention. It was covered in a hard white crust of limestone, the kind that builds up over 3,000 years underground. To the naked eye, it looked like a rough pebble, maybe a bead, maybe nothing at all. The team that dug it up had far bigger prizes to study first: gold rings, bronze swords, a mirror. So the little gray stone waited its turn, quietly, in a lab drawer, while nobody guessed what was hiding under that crust. When conservators finally cleaned the crust away, they found carved lines almost too small to see. Under a microscope, the stone showed 3 men locked in combat, 1 already dead on the ground, 2 more fighting with swords, muscles and hair rendered in lines finer than a human hair. The whole scene fit inside a space the size of a fingernail, carved into hard, reddish-brown agate, a stone tougher than steel to cut. Archaeologists gave it a name that stuck: the Pylos Combat Agate. Photographs blown up on a screen looked like a mural. In real life, held between 2 fingers, it was barely bigger than a chickpea. People who study Bronze Age art said they had never seen anything carved this precisely from that period, anywhere in the Mediterranean world. The stone came from a grave discovered in May 2015 by archaeologists Jack Davis and Sharon from the University of Cincinnati. They were digging near an old olive grove close to Pylos on the southwest coast of Greece, expecting maybe a farmhouse. Instead, they hit a shaft cut into rock, sealed and untouched for about 3,400 years. No looters, no earlier diggers, nothing disturbed. Inside lay 1 man, laid out with weapons, jewelry, and a small ivory plaque carved with a griffin, a mythical creature, part eagle and part lion. That plaque gave the skeleton its nickname, the Griffin Warrior. The grave dated to around 1450 BC, a time when Crete's Minoan culture and mainland Greece's Mycenaean culture were colliding and mixing. The Griffin Warrior grave held over 1,000 objects packed around a single body. There were bronze swords and daggers, some with gold handles. There were gold rings carved with tiny scenes, silver cups, a bronze mirror, and beads of amethyst, carnelian, and gold, more than 1,000 of them, scattered like confetti. For a burial from this early period, the wealth stunned researchers. Nothing this rich and this undisturbed had been found on the Greek mainland from that era before. It was less like a tomb and more like a vault that time had simply forgotten to open. Among all these treasures, the seal stone, the little carved agate showing the combat scene, was almost overlooked at first. It did not look important. That turned out to be the biggest surprise of all. The seal stone itself measures about 3.5 centimeters long, roughly the size of a large olive. Some of the carved details inside it are smaller than 0.5 millimeter wide, thinner than a strand of thread. To see them clearly today, researchers use a camera lens or a magnifying loupe. That raised an obvious question. The eye of a healthy young adult, even a very sharp one, struggles to focus on lines that fine without help. So how did a Bronze Age artist, working around 1450 BC, carve details that small and that exact, using hand tools, without electric light, and apparently without glasses or any lens we have ever found? That single question is the heart of everything that came next. Once photographs of the seal stone spread online, a simple claim followed close behind. Headlines and social posts said this proved the Minoans had lenses, or even eyeglasses, 3,000 years before anyone else on Earth. Some versions went further, calling it proof of a lost magnifying technology, quietly used and then completely forgotten. The idea spread fast because it is a great story. Ancient people secretly ahead of their time, hiding an invention history books never mention. It got repeated in articles, video essays, and forum posts, often stated as settled fact. But that claim did not come from a lab test or a discovered lens sitting next to the stone. It came from somewhere else, a much older and much shakier trail of evidence worth following back. The trail leads back decades to Crete, the island south of mainland Greece where Minoan culture first grew. Long before the Griffin Warrior was found, archaeologists there dug up small polished discs of rock crystal, a clear natural quartz. One famous example came from a Minoan site near Knossos. Some scholars in the 20th century looked at these clear, curved discs and thought they resembled a simple lens, the kind you could use to magnify small objects. Reporters and writers later linked those old rock crystal discs to the newer Pylos sealstone, reasoning that if lenses existed on Crete, the carver at Pylos might have used one too. That connection felt logical. It also skipped past a debate that experts had never actually settled. Many archaeologists do not accept that those rock crystal discs were lenses at all. Some argue they were jewelry, polished for beauty rather than for seeing through. Others suggest they were used to start fires by focusing sunlight, a very different job from close-up magnification work. No one has ever tested one of these discs and proven, beyond doubt, that a Bronze Age craftsman held it up to carve fine lines. And critically, no lens, no crystal disc, no magnifying tool of any kind was found inside the Griffin Warrior's grave, sitting next to the sealstone that supposedly needed one. The tool that the viral claim depends on has simply never turned up where it would matter most, right beside the evidence. There is another explanation, less exciting, but harder to rule out. Some researchers point to modern examples of people with unusually sharp, close-up vision. Folk artists and engravers today who carve fine detail by eye alone, using nothing but skill built over years of practice. Eyesight varies naturally from person to person, and a master carver, working every day for decades, could plausibly train both hand and eye to work at a scale most of us never attempt. Under this idea, the Griffin Warrior's sealstone is not proof of lost technology at all. It is proof of an extraordinary human being, patient and gifted, who happened to be born with excellent near vision and who spent a lifetime perfecting one narrow, demanding craft. Whichever explanation is right, the physical carving process is not a mystery. Bronze Age seal cutters used small bow drills, a bow-shaped tool that spun a thin bronze or stone point back and forth by pulling a string. They worked with abrasive powder, likely crushed emery or quartz sand, fed onto the stone to grind away tiny amounts at a time. Agate is extremely hard, so each cut and drilled dot would have taken real patience, built up stroke by stroke, rather than carved in one smooth line. It is slow, repetitive, physical work, closer to grinding a gemstone than drawing a picture. That process alone could explain the fine lines. What it does not fully explain is how the carver aimed each cut so precisely without seeing it clearly first. Picture something more familiar. Engineers today etch millions of tiny circuits onto a computer chip smaller than a fingernail, using machines guided by lasers and light. No human hand could draw those lines directly. The Pylos Combat Agate is not that advanced, but it sits in the same rare category. work at a scale where the maker's own eyes become the limiting factor, not the tool. It is closer to the old trick of writing the Lord's Prayer on a single grain of rice, something skilled engravers still do today by hand, without any lens, purely through trained control. That comparison does not settle the ancient question. It does show that the human eye and hand, alone, can sometimes do more than people expect. So where did the confident claim actually begin? When Jack Davis and Sharon Stalker published their findings, their own language was careful. They noted the astonishing detail, and they raised the possibility that some kind of magnifying aid might have been used, pointing to those older Cretan rock crystal discs as one option worth considering. They did not declare it proven. That careful, hedged sentence, buried in academic writing, is what news coverage picked up and simplified. A maybe became a certainty by the time it reached headlines and video scripts. The scientists asked a fair question in public. The internet answered it for them, with more confidence than the evidence actually allowed. And that gap is exactly where the viral claim was born. Strip away the headlines, and the actual situation is this. A carver in Greece, around 1450 BC, made cuts finer than 0.5 millimeter into one of the hardest stones available. No lens has ever been found beside that work, or beside any confirmed seal-cutting workshop from the period. No lens has been proven to have existed as a working tool at all. And no modern test has fully replicated the seal stone's precision using only bare hands and bronze tools, though nobody has definitively proven that impossible either. Archaeologists remain split. Some lean toward hidden optical help we have not found yet. Others lean toward pure human skill. Neither side has the missing piece needed to close the case, and both sides know it. Whatever the true answer, the seal stone already changed how historians talk about this period. Bronze Age art from mainland Greece used to be described as sturdy and forceful, but rougher than the finer work coming out of Crete. The Griffin Warrior's grave, sitting on the mainland, upended that ranking, showing craftsmanship equal to anything found on Crete itself, alongside objects blending styles from both cultures in one burial. It suggested closer contact, shared workshops, or traveling artists moving between islands and mainland far earlier than experts had assumed. The debate over lenses is really a smaller piece of a bigger one, about how skilled and connected these Bronze Age societies actually were, long before anyone wrote their history down in the way we usually trust. Today, the Pylos Combat Agate sits inside a small glass case at the Chora Archaeological Museum, a short drive from the olive grove where the grave was dug. Most visitors walk straight past it, drawn instead to the gold rings and the swords in the next case over. To the naked eye, through the glass, the seal stone still looks like a small, dull, reddish-brown pebble. Nothing special at all. The same first impression that almost got it thrown aside back in 2015. Only the enlarged photograph, mounted beside the case, reveals what is actually cut into that tiny surface. 3 warriors, frozen mid-fight, rendered in lines a human eye can barely resolve even now, made by hands that left no signature, no workshop mark, and no explanation behind. More forgotten history every week. Subscribe so it isn't lost twice.